Welcome to the Live Wildly podcast, a space where we explore how to live our wildest expressions while nourishing our hearts. Here we come together to share about our life paths, authentic expressions, and heart's wisdom with one another. We cover all things motherhood, spirituality, adventure, health and wellness, and more. I'm your host, Olivia Ashley, a mama, intuitive, and seeker of a joyful, inspired life. Let's dare to live wildly together. Hey, Live Wildly fam. You are in for a treat, and maybe a trick or treat, shall I say. This is a really fun episode because I was trying to decide what this was going to be about all day. And at first I was going to do it all around this theme and give some supportive help and ideas. And then as I was driving home from an outing at the Cave of the Winds, which just was like other level, otherworldly feeling, it hit me that it's October and it is time for some spooky stories. And I say that with a caveat that maybe they'll be spooky, maybe they won't be, but I am really feeling led by my dad to share this. So he was the master of spooky stories and would always be the one to, around a campfire, pull out these crazy, really well thought out stories. And he would always pull on a little bit of fact and then mix it with whatever else he wanted to bring forward. But I feel him. And this rendition of spooky stories is real. They aren't fake. They aren't pretend. I'm going to share a lot of my experiences that I've had since I was a child to more recently that are a bit more, the only word that I can think of is spooky, that are weird, out there, other. And I really just think it's time. And it's a little scary for me to maybe share this because if you know me and you're my good friend, you know that I am just for the weird and always curious. And I've also had a lot of experiences, and my intuitive gifts allow me to, I think, have these experiences, but most of my life, I didn't understand what was going on. So experiences with other beings, ghosts, past ones, demonic type energies, really dark energies, and then neutral energies, really happy, positive energies. I have had it all. And I think why this is so important is because we often feel so ostracized, scared. We maybe don't trust when we've had experiences like this, whether it's through a dream, through a real experience, like you're fully awake, or maybe it's a both. Or we have no one to turn to and be like, this happened. What do you think? Or it's like, oh, you're crazy, you're schizophrenic, that there's something, let me put this mental issue label on you, which I am not for. You know, those are real things. People really struggle with those. And a lot of us, though, are like here, fully embodied, living our best life, you know, making everything work. And we still have these experiences, or we can reflect and say, oh, you know, this has been happening. And so when I meet people, and if I feel like there's this vibe or they say something and this door gets open, I'm always open to sharing. And the responses I get have always been so supportive. People are absolutely craving this knowledge or craving these stories to be like, holy crap, what is this other side of the coin? And it's almost Halloween. You know, we have a few weeks, which is Samhain, and the veils are getting thinner and our ancestors are coming through. And I pulled a card because that is my MO. That's how I feel like I get my guidance. I get guidance, but then I check my guidance. And I got the snake, which is welcome higher guidance. And again, I'm like, ooh, my dad is here helping. And also all of our ancestors who are like, guys, there's so much more out there. There is so much more than we understand. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I have all the answers. I know what's going on because I've had these experiences. Hell to the no. We are here. We are learning. I am still a beginner. But I think a lot of these experiences, and sadly, were very negative, scary, freaked me out, but they led me to my gifts. They led me to getting curious, to understand the supernatural, to understand this other side of reality that no one talks about, or they just are in a very religious mind frame and they're like, pray to God, have an exorcist, depending on the level of what's happening, or just shh, don't say anything. That was just a dream. Pretend it's not real. You must have just been out of it, or, sweep it under the rug. And so I'm here in my empowered, embodied self saying, I am a normal human, probably a little not normal. I'm living my best normal that is for me. And I want to share my perspective. And so take this with a grain of salt. You have your own beliefs, you have your own stories, but this is not fabricated. I'm not going to elaborate. I'm going to just recall what I remember, the feelings, the sensations. Oftentimes, a lot of other people were with me when I had experiences, or I shared them. And so other people lived this with me often. And I just, if anything, enjoy this as getting ready for Halloween and getting a sense of all the witchy things that go on, if you want to frame it that way, and then just enjoy the storytelling in a way. But I am going to weave in how you too can become empowered, because this is where I'm coming from. I feel empowered. I know how to handle these situations when I face them. I have a deeper understanding of what is going on. And even if I don't, I at least feel safe, capable to handle it. I trust in my partner, my husband, my sweet friends to listen to me, to whatever that is that I need. And that's what I want you to leave here with. That no matter if you haven't had experiences like this, maybe you're curious, and I swear it will open a door if you are, or if you're deep in this realm and you're like, holy moly, I am here, sister. Let's get into this stuff. I just think this is an area that needs to be talked about. There's literal research, studies, documentaries about so much of this, and I'm going to link a good bit in the show notes if you want to run down this rabbit hole that just opens this door. I truthfully think I will do something in the realm of this, especially helping children. I think as I reflect back, there was so much pain from just being told I'm crazy and just stop talking about this, or you just are stuck in the negative and whatever, just go to sleep, you're fine. When I was really struggling to express, to say, this is how I'm feeling, a lot of my gifts and intuition and experiences are through my physical body, emotional body, and it messed with me. And I really was a very highly negative, just trapped in this cyclical cycle person. And I want to empower mothers, fathers, anyone in between, and kiddos to say there is a space that is safe where we can talk about this and normalize this and help empower them when they have nightmares, or something came towards me, or I'm feeling like there's this presence around me, or something's talking to me at night. Because a lot of this, I think, comes around at night, not always. If you're highly sensitive, you're going to have it whenever, but around the nighttime, it seems to draw this out. I think everything is quieter. Our subconscious mind can come through a little bit more, but that's the frame I want to take. So as much as I want this to be fun and feel like we're getting in the spooky season, I think there's a lot of really juicy, supportive pieces to this for all you listening. And I just am curious who else out there has had experiences, wants to have experiences, is curious, is open. So that's kind of my container that I'm setting. Again, I really feel my dad coming through to help lead this, because he was someone who was highly intuitive and had many experiences, and he piqued my interest in this supernatural, but again, came from this fear background. He grew up Baptist and then Catholic and everything in between, and I think had a really hard time mentally understanding and bridging that gap between this is what my beliefs say and what I've been taught, but these are my experiences that I'm having. And I'm really sad that he wasn't able to open up. We asked him actually probably a month or two before he passed, could you share more on this? Because we know he could physically see ghosts. He had many experiences with them. And so he did share a little bit throughout while I was growing up, but he kept tight. And that, I think, was a disservice in a way. It was his path, but I can feel him being like, I wish I would have shared and could have empowered you in that way to say, I don't know if it's genetic. I don't know if it's because of your beliefs, if you're open to it. I will say, if you're open, and I've always been curious, I think you're going to have more experiences, but that's not across the board. When I look at kids who are really struggling or having this type of haunting or something that is coming through, that, often they didn't ask for that, right? Weren't like, I want this and believe this. I think it happens, but I do think beliefs obviously have a play in it and just curiosity. But yes, I'm just, as you can tell, this is something that is close to my heart. So if you've listened this far and you're like, not for me, totally get it. Check out. I'll see you in the next episode. But for those who are curious or I've piqued your interest, let's dive in and begin. So as a child, one of my first experiences, and as I start this spooky story, was around the age 5. But this was my first really vivid memory of having some type of being or entity or whatever come forward. And to me, it felt more like some type of being, I will say, more than a spirit. And it was with my brother. So he is 18 months younger than me, and he's the opposite of me. But we had this joint experience this one night, and we shared a bunk bed at this time. And I remember us both getting woken up, but we were separate. So we were asking each other, do you see this? Like we had this deep feeling, and we looked over and we had a nightlight. And for me, how it was manifesting was I saw this, what it looked like. It was a female woman, but it was like she was painted on the door. She was blonde. She had a blue shirt on, just jeans. And what was weird about this is I almost relate her to like an old time computer graphic where it was kind of blurry. It was almost like someone, like a kid put it together and then slapped it on my door. And she was shifting. It wasn't just like she was fully embodied. It was like she was vibrating in a way on this door. So I would like see parts of her, but she would be shifting in and out. And I don't recall the conversation, but I remember being entranced, being like, who are you? What do you want? And I mean, we were like in this, again, it was like this trance state. I don't remember what was said. I was very young, but I remember the feeling and seeing of her and being just like, wow. And I kept asking Austin, like, do you see her? And he's like, I see him. I see him. And so when we ultimately went to sleep somehow, I don't remember, or we stayed awake, again, very young, we woke up and went to have breakfast, and we both went, Mom, someone came in our room last night. And at first she was like, oh my God, what happened? And then we told her, she's like, oh, you just had a weird dream. You guys are fine. And me and my brother looked at each other like, that was not a dream. What the hell was that? Like, we still talk about it to this day. And it didn't feel negative. If anything, we were just a bit fearful because we weren't understanding. I'd say she was more neutral. But for him, my brother, he saw a man. So he said he had brown hair, short brown hair. It was on the door though. And he described it very similarly to me of how it looked like a weird figure on there. And he couldn't really recall much more, like what we even talked about, what they wanted. We don't have that memory, but we remember when it woke us up and us witnessing it. And neither of us really remember going to bed, but it was something that I stuffed down deeply and was like, holy shiznit. Holy crap. What was that? And I would love to say it was just our imaginations, but we both had this experience. I just feel like it wasn't. So that kind of was like the start. Moving to my next one, it would be more that when I became a teenager, I was just bombarded with negative entities. I don't know if they were demonic, if they were past ones. I'm not going to say, I can't say what they were because I didn't understand at that time enough to be able to delineate the difference. But I slept with the nightlight, slept with my light on. I never felt okay not having my limbs stuck inside my blanket. And the stories here are more around, I had a lot of physical things happen. So one night I remember being very unsettled. I did not feel okay, did not feel safe, but I tried my best to sleep. And then at some point in the night, I felt just like a slam on my body. And I went to sit up, but I couldn't really move. And what happened, I had a picture behind my bed nailed to the wall. It had fallen down on top of me. And it felt like I was suffocating because I didn't understand what was happening. And I was under the covers fully. And so that freaked me out. And I just felt like there was this laughter in the background, like something laughing. And that really did not make me feel okay. I left my room and went and slept on the floor of my parents' room that night. And that happened more than once, both that picture falling and like I made my dad check the wire. Why is this happening? And he was like, I have no idea. This is so weird. We eventually moved it to another wall because it just didn't make sense to keep it there since my bed was there and it kept happening. And then I also had shelves with precious moments. And every once in a while, I'd wake up with one on the floor. And you guys, these were nowhere near me. Like I couldn't have gone up unless I'm sleepwalking and crazy. But again, I think others would have noticed that or I would have had an experience where a parent, a sibling would have heard me or like seen me do this. So I don't think it was anything like that. But they were on the other side of the room. And we don't have earthquakes in Colorado. We don't have things that, there's no wind. I didn't have a fan in my room. I didn't sleep with a fan on. So I still don't know what that was, but I always felt like there was things in there just trying to toy with me, to get me scared, to feed off my energy and keep me in this disempowered place. And I want to say that I see this a lot now. And from what I understand, that sometimes if you are feeling very negative, very stuck, like there's a presence or just this feeling where like you're like, oh, I just can't get out of this and I'm angry and I'm in this cycle and this negativity. Sometimes it's not yours. So this could be energetically that other people you're around, you have that energy in your body and in your auric field and you need to clear that out, bubble up, imagine your auric field strong and whatever color light feels safe and protective. There's no holes, do a cleansing like a waterfall is going through it. Ground yourself. But other times there are beings and entities that will attach to you. And this took a long time for me to learn too. And I still don't know the whole understanding of how this works, but I know that this is the case from my own experience. And so I just want to caveat that as I thought I was a very angry, negative human, when in reality, that was not my personality. I was being bombarded by very negative entities and beings that would just mess with me. And when I realized that and I began to take some of my power back and began to learn energetic, both embodiment, but clearing and how to work with my energy body and emotions, everything turned. So I will get there, but I just want to caveat that when I reflect back, I'm so sad at how hard life was at that time and just how helpless I felt because I didn't feel like I could tell anyone about it. And it really freaked me out. It left me with just fear a lot of the time, and especially related tonight. So if you're having any of that, if you're struggling with it, know that there are resources, there are people that deal with this that can help you feel empowered and not take it from a scary place like, oh, I'm going to come in and yeah, let's talk to this negative energy and like, let's just feel it all and And it's like, that's a part of it, but how do you clear it? How do you give that power and that embodiment back to whomever is experiencing it? Because often it's pointed. It's pointed to one or two of the family and it just leeches on and then it leaves everyone else alone. And I think it's almost like it makes them feel even crazier and it continues. And I don't know how that works. I'm getting super goosebumped just saying that. So be aware of that too. Sometimes you can feel like you're going crazy because no one else is having the same experiences. No one else can relate. And I think that's just a part of it. But again, I will say there's light at the end of the tunnel. Not everything is spooky and scary, but there's lessons in it. There are really true, valid experiences in it. And so going through my fear of the dark, that lasted with me. I never conquered it through high school. I went to college and I had to get over sleeping without a light on because I had a roommate in my dorm. And And I felt fine. If I reflect like my freshman year, sophomore year, we're totally okay. It was when I moved in with my now husband, Steven. So I moved in with him end of my sophomore year. And the apartment complex that we were in was really old and just had tons of mirrors. Literally every wall was full of mirrors. And mirrors, let me tell you, throwback to my high school room, I had a massive mirror in my room. And so getting to my point from there and then my experience in this apartment, mirrors are literal portals. I kid you not. Things come through it. You have to be very aware. And again, this is not to scare you, but this is to empower you and to teach you like, hey, this is what I've learned. I hope this makes sense to you or helps you, that I had no awareness of this. But when I look at mirrors, sometimes I now will cover them. Not in my house, but if I go other places, and even if I will do a clearing, and even if I've done that and I still don't feel right, I will cover the mirrors. It just lets my nervous system relax. Energetically, that feeling that I'm getting seems to calm down. But so we had all these mirrors, floor to ceiling, and our dog, it was really our dog that would freak us out because she would just look up in a corner and then just start growling and barking. Or there was one time I was all alone and she was just staring straight above my head and just freaked the F out. Like I could tell she was not okay. She got this like weird nervous, started whining, but just would not look at me, just kept looking straight above me. And that one weirded me out. And at that time though, I was like all by myself. I didn't know how to help myself. So I think I just left the room, called a friend, and just pretended it didn't happen. But we also had one dog who wouldn't even walk into certain rooms in that place. Like she was absolutely terrified of it. So that was where I started having an increase, was when Steve and I really got together and were living with each other. And entities and things, they really do stay in places. You can catch them. They can come onto you and come with you, or they can just be in certain places, whether they've died there or they've found there, or they're through physical items. So think like a treasure box. I don't know why that came to my mind, like a jewelry box or some type of symbol, like carved wood that's on your wall, or even a picture or a mirror or anything. I've had some really, really trippy, overwhelming experiences from touching physical things, which I won't get into at this moment. But it started in that apartment and then we moved out of there. There wasn't anything too major that happened in that one, just this uneasy feeling. And we had a lot of negativity just fueling in that space, I would say. And I'm not going to get too much into that, but just trust when I say that. I have a good handful of things that happened to us that just, were heavy, dark, not good. And then it was really when we moved to our next apartment in Boulder. So all of this was happening in Boulder. And this apartment was off 30th in Colorado. So if you know Boulder, you can probably kind of place yourself. It's directly down, I guess, east probably from campus and from the mountains. And again, very old place. And the first thing that happened, well, right before we moved, we ended up adopting a second dog. And she was the one that was like, I'm not going in these rooms. I'm not doing this. Like something is up with this space. And her name was Spirit. And I look and I laugh so hard. And I thought that was so weird at that time. I was like, this is just no. Like Spirit, what does that mean? I'm not here for it. But truly, she was planted in my life to open my whole spiritual side and connect me to spirits, as you can tell from what I am all talking about. But I liked the S. I wanted to stay with S. And it took me a while. And then it kind of just came to me. I was like, Sadie. Her name's going to be Sadie. And so we changed her name. We were kind of going in between Spirit and Sadie for a little bit. But then we moved. We moved into this apartment. It was just Steven and I and our two doggies, Gracie and Sadie. And we meet our neighbor who she's like, oh, I've lived here my entire life, like since the 80s. And it's actually really sad. Your apartment only became open because another woman who's did the same just passed away and died here. And we were like, oh, wow. And they're like, yeah, in your apartment. And we're like, oh, cool. That's so good. She's like, yeah, it's fine though. Like she was very sweet, but she had this cat named Sadie. And we looked at each other like, what? And it was her favorite cat, and it had to get given to her sister, or it went somewhere. But we were like, oh, that's so weird. We just named our dog Sadie like a day, 2 days ago. Like we moved into this very quickly after we had gotten our dog. And just, it took me a while to decide her name. I think we had 8 days between when we got Sadie and when we moved. And so that was kind of the first weird thing. And she made a note like, ooh, I bet she helped you name her. And I was like, okay, I don't want to think about that. And so when we moved in well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself because before we moved in, we toured this place and went to the back, and it was wide open. Steve and I remember there was nothing really behind it. It was grass, trees, and we were like, oh, this is so beautiful. And we have these little back patios. We were on the first floor of this apartment. And that's what kind of sold us. We're like, oh, this feels so wonderful. Okay, awesome. And then we moved in and we walked outside, and there was a fence. There was a full fence within like 5 feet of our back patio. And then there was an apartment building directly behind us and this big hill. And Sue and I looked at each other like, are we crazy? We both saw that this was a wide open field. This fence was not here. And that's why we chose this. What is happening? And this was the start of the Mandala effect in this apartment. I do not know what kind of portal or what was happening in this space around this apartment, but we had the most crazy experiences and multiple things where, if you don't know where the Mandala effect is, it's that thing where when you remember a memory, it's one way, but then now in reality, it's a different way. So just Google it. The biggest one that I can think of is the Berenstein Bears, the way it's spelt. It's like Berenstein versus Berenstein or something. And this stuff happens. And I don't know if it's because we shift timelines, that's my guess, or just something shifts where we just slightly change parallel reality, that then things aren't as we remember them, but we had those real life experiences. So that just floored us, confused the hell out of us. We even asked, so that one neighbor, again, the woman who was right next to us who had lived there forever, there wasn't a fence here. And she's like, no, there's always been a fence here. Yeah, there's a fence. So Steven and I, again, it was one of those things where we just chalked it up to something happened that day, like we're really off, or no one was sick, but we both had these multiple joint experiences of this Mandala effect. And the next one was we met another neighbor who had just gotten this beautiful dog, and we were like, oh, tell us about it. And he goes, yeah, her name's Nala, like the Lion King. And we're like, that's so cool. Like, yeah, her color totally matches. She totally looks like a Nala. And we're like, cool, bye, we'll see you around. Like a couple days go by, a week go by, and then we see him again and we're like, oh, hi, Nala. And he, kid you not, dead stares us in the face with this shock on his face. That's not my dog's name, is what he responds. And we both go, yeah, it is. Like, you just told us a week ago. Recently, you just told us that this was your dog's name. And I don't remember the dog's actual name, but we remembered what it was. But he just said, nope, not her name, never has been her name. I don't know why you think that. You must be thinking about a different dog. And again, Steven and I were together when this happened. We talked about it later that night. Like, oh, that's so cute, blah, blah, blah. We love the Lion King. And maybe he just really didn't want anyone to know he had named it Nala. But he was so sure in himself of, no, this is my dog's name now. Do not mess this up. So that was super strange. And then the things started happening. So our cabinets would start opening and closing on their own. You would watch them open, close, open, close. And then you'd go over there and you'd open it. It wouldn't move. You'd close it. Nothing would happen. You'd go sit down and then you'd get back up and it'd be open again. And again, maybe there's a slant, maybe we're on a hill, but it doesn't make sense. This would be just a random cabinet here and there, and it wouldn't be consistently the same one, and there'd be no one else in the apartment, or we'd leave and we'd leave it a certain way, we'd come back and it'd be open. And it was just weird. Like, you have that feeling where you know something's not right. We were always kind of stuck with that feeling in this apartment. And then we also would have our trash can lid. So we had one of those ones that you kind of push, and then it comes back right into place. You can spin it if you really force it. But that thing, I kid you not, again, you'd be sitting and then all of a sudden you'd hear it and it would start spinning. The lid would just start spinning. And we looked at it, we took it apart, like this shouldn't happen. There's nothing to spin it. There's no fans, there's nothing. And it would just spin and you would hear it. Like we'd be in the bedroom and we'd hear it start spinning. And so again, just would leave you with this uneasy aspect. And I felt like Steve and I were also going through this kind of unfun phase where we're kind of getting angry towards each other, or we weren't really being on the same page. And I don't really know where it was. And one of the last big things we experienced that was in that apartment that tripped us out, and we still don't know what happened. We're sitting in bed and we're reading or talking, and all of a sudden we hear this massive audible, but it's like it's inside your body. You felt it inside your body, and our vision went wild. The whole room, again, it felt like we were tripping on something. And I can say that because I've experienced tripping. I will just be honest. So I have that realization of, we kind of just looked at each other like we were frozen, and it lasted for probably 10, 15 seconds, but our whole bodies were tingling. We felt super weird. We were like, did we just have a joint stroke? I mean, my only guess with that one, I'm like, maybe it was some weird EMF pulse or something strange and we're just highly sensitive to it, but it did not feel good. It made everything felt really different, felt very scary. We felt full of fear. We didn't know what was happening to us. And so that place was just a trip. And that was the start of some really big things, because we then got flooded in that apartment. We had to leave that apartment, and it was the end of Steven and I in a way. We had to both go through these really big shifts and differences and working things out. But we both spiraled, I would say. We spiraled heavily into alcohol and drugs and just self-abandonment, maybe, I guess. And I was just fueled in fear, in confusion, in anger, in band-aiding. And I'm not going to say that these experiences set me into that path. A lot of other things did, but it was just, I felt like I didn't know what was happening. And to me, am I crazy? Again, that's where I started off this podcast of, you're not crazy. This is not crazy. These things happen because we are surrounded by so much more than we realize or can see or can understand. It just is. Quantum physics, look at any of these other areas, that is literally breaking down so much that we thought to be true and real. And so I think I just have to come back to that you can feel lost though. You can feel totally alone. But we started, I'd say, getting more into spirituality, into metaphysics, into our energy bodies, into Kundalini, into yoga. So while all this is happening in our Boulder apartment and then the subsequent years, we are really shifting a lot in our lives. We changed our diet. We got sober. I got sober for a while at least. And the way we were thinking and what we believed to be true was completely crumbling. It just was this cascade of what we thought to be real was not really real, and we had to re-identify truths and what was our truth amidst the truths, quote unquote, we've been told and shared. But this was really kick in the butt to start to do this, and having these experiences was just par for the course for us at this point. You know, we talked about it, we just kind of laughed about it, we accepted it, and at this point I wasn't, I'd say, open enough with my gifts still to be able to communicate or feel or understand to where I'm at now. So jump forward to, I think at this point, I've gone through my Reiki practice. I became a Reiki master. So this is years later. I'd say at least 4 years later, 5 years later. I can't really remember any spooky things that happened in that course. There's a lot of other things happening in my life. I will just say that. But my Reiki master changed the game. it opened up all these understandings, how to work with my energy, how to connect to past loved ones, how to help beings, how to connect to and clear beings or other entities when they come through. And this teacher really, really helped me understand that I am naturally a medium. So if you listen back to, I think it's episode 4 with Angela Husney, we talk a lot about the differences between mediumship and intuition and gifts. So totally go back and give that a listen if you want to learn more. But essentially, and I'm going to preface this because this is kind of going to set us up for the rest of my stories that I'm going to share, is around being able to connect with past or deceased humans, but also beings, entities, others is how I'm going to describe it, because truthfully, I really don't understand what else is out there, but there is, and I've experienced it. And she described it for me like this, of what's happening, because I was starting to have a lot of experiences where it was coming in through my body, where I could feel the person's feelings, I could feel their grief, their sorrows, their confusion, all the above, and I was getting glimpses of what happened to them in my mind's eye, and it was tripping me out. I had never had that up to this point, but I think the door just at some point just was open enough. And so having this teacher who ended up being my Reiki teacher just helped me, and she explained it that as a medium, and especially at least for me, it's like someone has gotten into a car crash. So that's that deceased person or being or entity, and everything's dark. They can't see anything. Maybe it's raining, whatever has happened. And so they're walking. It's like the person's left their car and they're walking to look for help. And then they see a house with a light on. So they're like, oh, help, I'm going to go there. I can see that. And they go there and they knock on the door and they're like, hey, I need a telephone, or can you connect me to where I need to go next, or to help me connect to what's next. And I'm that house with the light on, that they just see me, they can sense me, however that works on that side in that realm. And so they come a knocking and they're like, hey, I know you can feel me, sense me. I can feel you and sense you. Let's communicate. And so you get the whole gambit, and I'll save a lot of this for another episode, but it begun. I think that's the best way I can put it, is it really, really started to rocket off what it was happening. So one of the first ones that was like trippy to me was we traveled to Wyoming for a trip, and we're staying in someone's home, so an Airbnb type thing, and we got there super late. So we're really tired, and again, goes back to my nighttime just opens other doors, and Halloween, I feel like, is going to open those doors. They just always do, just this time of year and these feelings. So this is why I really wanted to talk about this today. And I'm laying in bed, and I think it'd probably be Forrest is with me in bed, and I'm like, oh, finally I can go to sleep, but I feel uneasy. I'm kind of like, this is weird. And I kid you not, my eyes are half open, eyes are half closed, I'm just trying to settle in. And I just see this shadow dart through the room, and it heads into the bathroom. And the bathroom's kind of creepy. It has these really thick curtains instead of a door to block the bathroom. And there were dark purple, dark black even curtains. And I was like, what the fuck was that, right? Like, what was that? And excuse me for cursing. I will try not to. But I just wouldn't, that wasn't anything. Go to sleep. I'm fine. And it darts again. And I just remember I was fed up. I was kind of like, you're freaking me out. I'm so tired. I have driven all day long. I am not having it. So I sat up, and thankfully, again, I had done my Reiki. So at this point, I checked in with myself. I connected to this being with a guide, and was like, who are you? What do you want? And it was this little boy that came through. Obviously, he's been passed, and he just wants to mess with you. I have come into a lot of jokester energy. I would say that they just want to have fun, like they're fun with you, but it's kind of to scare you, freak you out, make you feel unsettled. I don't know why that's the MO, but I think that's really all they can do. And I was like, do you want to pass on? I can send you to the light. I can help you go. And he was like, nope, I don't. And I was like, okay, well then boundary. You are not allowed in this space. You cannot be here. I had bubbled it with light, cleared the space with my guides, and I could feel him leave. I didn't see shadows. I didn't feel his presence. He accepted, because long story short, and the big, if you take nothing away from this whole spooky story session, you have the power. None of these beings have the power, period, ever, at all. You have to, though, step forward and claim your power. And this isn't you react with fear. Like at first, it's totally normal to be fearful, unsure, but you have to step into yourself and say, I am full of love and I am blasting love. And this is my love-filled space and light-filled space. And unless you would like to go to the light, you are not welcome here. And I also, and as I get into more stories, will pull a guide. So if you've worked with guides, maybe you haven't worked with guides, but maybe you have a god, a goddess, someone that you feel is safe, and an archangel, angel, anything, or past loved one even. You have someone that can stand next to you and sit and also beam light, beam support, and help you, because I've had entities that are so strong that I was not enough. But once I had my crew with me, and again, this is all in my mind's eye, I'm connecting, I'm communicating, I'm feeling, but I have a lot of physical sensations. That really helps. And I say that because I didn't say anything to Steven when this happened. And a couple days in, we were there for probably 4 days or so. He's like, gosh, I can't sleep. Something is really freaking me out. When I go to bed, the light gets weird. The fan is weird. I keep hearing noises in my room, and I feel so unsettled and so uneasy. And I go, oh, you know what? This little boy approached me the first night and freaked me out. And I was like, get away from me. He just goosebumped and was like, oh my God, for real? And I was like, yes. I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think to clear you or try to say, clear this house. I cleared my space because I just wanted to sleep. I was like, you should do that. But my husband's kind of that like, nah, I'm fine, whatever. He wants the experience, but I don't think he really wants the experience. And so he just put up with it. Like, I commend him, but I know he didn't sleep well and it didn't go well. But yeah, that little boy just wanted to mess with us. And I was not here for it, but that happens often in Airbnbs, in hotels. I have many, many stories, and many awesome stories where I've connected to someone of the land who's a keeper of the land, or is really connected to the house and just is excited to see children or people there. So again, I'm giving you my more negative, maybe I could say, stories, but these all happened to me. And I'd say I have a lot more heavy experiences than light ones. I haven't had too much more recently. I have had a couple, but for some reason, those ones, they really stand out too. And I want to say the ones who are very positive and light-filled and loving, I think they're just kind of there and give you support in the background. They're not making as much of a fuss, or they're giving you synchronicities and signs through numbers or totems or symbols and your oracle cards. So I think those come through if you've set the container in a certain way that you don't really think about it as much. But it's when your boundaries have kind of gone down, or you're energetically drained, or it's been a hard time and you're already kind of negative, that things clump on, is what I've noticed. So I'm going to share one that was this really intense, crazy dream that still sits with me and trips me out. And I say trips me out because I don't want to say it scares me, but it makes me be like, whoa, that was huge and wild. And something I haven't really shared a lot is I said in the beginning that I have a lot of physical interactions. And when I say that, it's like bed shaking. It's like someone's pulling at my feet. I've been frozen in my body. And I know there is a medical term where you're paralyzed. This is something your body does when you're sleeping, so you're not acting out your dreams. But I will say it was different than that. There was something like it was sitting on my chest, that something was grabbing at me, trying to trick me, pull me out of bed. And so that has happened a lot and still happens a lot to me when these entities come forward or try to mess with me, is the best way. So this dream, trippy. And this was probably only 6 months, if not less than, ago that this happened. So I'm dreaming that I'm with my mom and I'm at their house. And it wasn't really her house, but it was like it was a house we'd lived in before together when I was a kid. And we went into her bathroom and she was doing her makeup and I'm kind of talking to her. And I think my sister is there just kind of hanging out. And there all of a sudden I noticed this big clock, and it's like the clock from, if you can imagine, what is the show? Stranger Things, like that most recent season, that crazy clock that's connected. I think clocks are portals too, truthfully. I think just the way that they tell time and the energy that they create, I think they can open and relay certain energy. I don't know. I'm just theorizing, you guys. Be here for it, or don't be. But it's this big grandfather clock, and it's ticking and ticking. And so I get closer to it, and then all of a sudden it's a black and white screen, like those old photos. And it's like flipping through these photos, but there's ectoplasm. So again, Google it. It's like this white ectoplasm, like white cloud looking substance that can come out of the body. This is a real thing. It's been documented. It's wild. Again, there's still a lot of unsureness around it or debunking that goes down, but the people who've experienced it and what's been captured is really, really wild. So I'm watching, and these people are having this around them. And then the other piece is they're starting to get more and more deformed looking, these people. Scary. And in my dream, I can lucid dream. I will say that. I can realize that I'm dreaming, that this isn't real, or shift things or change things. So in this moment, I started to feel like it was sucking me in, like something was about to come through or suck into my body. Like I could just feel it like deep in my soul inside my dream. And I went, nope, it's coming. Like, I'm not here for this. My conscious mind flipped on. I've had this feeling, and I equate this to when I've had those bed shakings, those experiences where in the physical, I'm paralyzed or something's grabbing at me and I can't yell, I can't do anything. It's this weird transfer that happens. And so I could feel that was starting while I was dreaming, but in my physical body, in my real life, this thing was about to jump through this clock into my true, real reality, if that makes sense. And so I pulled myself away from the clock, and I was like, I'm not doing this. Nope. And all of a sudden I was like pulled into awake consciousness. I was in my bed, fully there, fully awake. And I could feel it, like this dark, dark, deep energy, evil. I don't use that lightly, that term, but truly evil energy that came forward. And it was pulling. My bed started shaking. And at first I was like, nope, I'm going to go back to bed. I'm just going to go in my dream. And I think I kind of started to fall asleep. And then I felt it, this full pull, literally yanked my ankles. I felt my body shift, but I was frozen. I could not move. And I couldn't hear anything. It wasn't talking to me, but I could tell it was not happy. And it was just going to continue this fear dance for as long as it was able to. And so I could not speak. I could not say anything in the physical. And this happens a lot when I have these experiences. And it's so scary. I can't say anything, or I'm like mumbling, and it's like, help, help, help. I remember trying to say help, help, help in the physical. I was legit freaked out because it is rare that I feel an entity at this caliber, would be the way I describe it. And so when I realized that wasn't working, and I was trying to blast it with love and be like, you're not welcome here, you need to leave. But I was also very highly aware that these things jump. I'm giving you all the things I've learned throughout this podcast too. And I hope this makes sense as I'm flowing through this, because these come up. You can get an entity off of yourself, but that doesn't mean the entity is gone. Unless you've done the process of it's gone to the light, it's gone elsewhere, a different dimension, it's hopping. And I've learned and looked into this, like research-wise, some of the people who are really diving deep into this subject, is it will just hop to someone else who's typically a child, or others who are weakened, who don't understand this energetic state, or who are sick, who have an illness. And a lot of these can come forward. This research is so wild, and this isn't my experience, but what I've heard is your physical ailments can actually be entities or beings that have grabbed on and are stuck inside of you and creating this illness. And so when you've healed this, or you've gone through a Reiki session or hypnosis or shamanism or something that is energetically able to move, I just feel like I want to clap, like shift they release off of you and they go elsewhere, they're going to go to someone else. And my next story is going to be something like that too, to even share a little bit deeper. But so I went in and again, back to my guides, I called forward my main guide. 2 more guides came forward. I called on Archangel Michael. I work with him a lot, especially when I set space. And if I go into the Akashic Records, if I'm doing deep energy work, always, always, always important to set intention, boundary, space. And that is what allowed me to actually verbally speak clearly and say, leave, you are gone, you are not welcome, I demand that you leave. And when you demand, and with the right intentions and backings, they will leave. But as soon as that happened and I felt them leave, one, I first had to calm down, but I immediately started to Reiki my home, to send energy to my space, to place my guides. Again, this is all in my mind, but place them all in the other rooms of my house and ask my children's and my family's guides to come forward and hold space so this entity would not come back. And it didn't. I didn't have anything like that. But that dream, holy moly, full portal, it jumped. It jumped through that clock. It sucked me in and I knew it. I knew it in my dream and I knew it was about to happen. It was just so wild to have it then be so physical and taxing on me. So I really did a lot of clearing the next couple days. And the last story, my last spooky story that I want to share here today is similar to how things can jump. So one night, every so often, my husband likes to take psychotropics, psychedelics, something to help shift him. He always does it when I'm home or when he's alone, no kids are around, whatever that is, or I'm home and I can manage the fort and he can have that space, and he always does it in the middle of the night because that's the only time to do it, right? In a safe space. And it just helps him. I will just say that. It's one of his healing modalities. Don't come for him. We're amazing parents, amazing humans. Everyone has their way, and he really does it in such a sacred, special way. And so that night, I knew he was doing it. And again, I was woken up middle of the night by shaking. My bed is shaking. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? What is happening? I'm so tired. What time is it? Leave me alone. I think I literally just said, leave me alone. And I went back to sleep. And then no, like full, again, they always grab my ankles. I don't know what that's about, but I felt it pull me and I felt it paralyze me. So I couldn't speak, couldn't move. And it's a feeling. I have this full dread. Like, think of the scariest freaking movie, something that just sends shivers down your spine, that freaks you out. That is the feeling that is pushed onto you. And that's what I mean. Like, I swear they do it because they feed off it. That's my only way I can make sense of it, whatever they are. And again, I don't know what these things are, but every so often they come at me. It's always when I'm tired or I haven't been doing my practice. I haven't set intention, been mindful about it. And I had to go through that whole dance that I just explained through my dream, call my guides, get it to leave. But this one really did not want to leave. I could just feel it. Like it just wanted to climb to me and was like, not happy. I'm not leaving. I don't know where else to go. You're going to eat all this fear and you're going to like it and you have to accept it. And I was like, heck to the no. I've dealt with you. I calmed down, did all my practices, and then got it to leave. But again, I was awake for a while, cleared myself, cleared the house. After these happen, especially being a mom, I don't want my kids to feel this. I don't want anyone else in my family or loved ones to have something jump to them. So I cleared the house and I went to bed. What was trippy about this is I woke up and I said, Steven, how was it? What came up? It's usually a lesson he learns or something comes up and he goes, oh my God, I had something release off of me. He goes, around this time, I just was over it and I pounded my fists on the countertop and I just felt this something like this energy shift came off my body and flew off me. And he's like, I felt so much lighter. I felt so much better. It just gave me full chills. I was like, holy moly. I said, I have to tell you something. I said, because I had kind of even forgotten at that point. I just went back to bed. You guys, this is normal. Like, this is my reality. These things don't trip me out too much anymore. I have my mode, I know what to do, and I move forward with my life. And so I told him everything that happened, And I was like, I looked at the clock and it was right around 3. And he goes, no way. I looked at the clock too. And he goes, that's the exact time that just happened and that came off of me. And so, yeah, it jumped. And my bedroom's right above where our kitchen is, kind of. So it wouldn't have had to jump very far. And I think, again, there's a lighthouse, there's a being. I got to go somewhere else. I'm going to come mess with you. And so I don't know obviously I don't know where it went after, but yeah, it's trippy. The life is weird. Life is so much weirder than you expect. The veil is so much thinner than you think it is. So don't doubt yourself. And if I can leave you empowered, I hope I didn't freak you out too much. I hope this just opens your eyes, or you just enjoyed my storytelling, whatever comes out of this. And I just want to share that this is normal. These experiences, these hauntings, these entities, these weird dreams, this confusion. Oh, I have so many more stories than these ones. Okay. I gave you like a highlight reel of the ones that were more relevant, or the ones that really came forward as I was thinking through what I wanted to share today. But I have so many friends now who come to me and will call me and say, hey, there's an entity or there's someone bothering me in my home. Can you help me? I don't know what to do. And I'll help them walk through a clearing. I empower them how to do it themselves and say, no, this isn't weird. Because usually they're giving me like, I know this is so weird. I don't know if this is real. They have to placate themselves to try to also be like, please don't look at me different, whatever. And I'm here. I'm different. I'm ready for that. I've been this way my whole life. But I want to create this safe container to say, there are allies. There are other people who understand this way more than you do and can help you shift through it. So whether it's a house clearing or you're dealing with some type of haunting or experience, reach and find those people that can help you. And I think it's becoming more and more, but you can do it. Once you understand just some basic steps, and I will walk through that really fast before we end, you are capable, and you don't have to have these experiences. I think a lot of people have these experiences and just move on and nothing else happens to them. But if for those who are really working with your intuition, your spirituality, the metaphysics, the quantum realm, the Akashic records, guides, mediumship, or just have a curiosity around this, there at some point, if you haven't already, it will come a time where you experience something similar, but in your own way. And I want you to feel like you can own it. You can be safe in your home. You can be safe within your body. And these things can't mess with you. If anything, you learn from them, you grow from them. I'm so grateful for all these experiences because it has expanded my worldview to a level that I never thought possible. So here is how you can help yourself. Step 1 would be setting intention and space. I have a candle lit. I did a little meditation before. I pulled a card, asked my dad to be here with me and help me. So set an intention that you are safe. You have your protectors, whomever those are around you. It could be no one. You just say this space is full of light and love and everything else must leave now. And that only the highest vibrations of love and light, of good, can be in this space. And so it is. Your word, your belief is where you need to start. I would clear your energy. Super simple. You don't even have to know what your energy is. Just imagine yourself in this big egg of gold. Big egg. So within 10 to 20 feet outside of your body. And then this is your auric field. And it is clean. It is protected. It is safe. It is whole. There are no holes. I love to turn a shower on at the top and watch the water all come down. Use the elements. Set a fire inside. Burn out anything old and have a drain at the bottom. That the drain is just, it's not going to go to anyone else. It's going to dissipate. Mama Earth or someone will take it and you're safe. And then you're closed and you're closed within this container. I would always recommend doing some type of intention and also energetic boundary setting before you try to interact. If it's already coming into you, like you woke up and this is happening, I would still take 5 seconds to do those 2 things because it is a game changer and it's something that we should be doing often. We are not taught this. We are not taught to think about these things, but it is so important and key to your energetic, spiritual, soul, life, physical health, all the health. And then what I've learned is you just go through your heart space and you just start beaming love. Like, you can feel fearful, but you can say, I send love to you, because a lot of these entities, they're stuck in the fear and they have lost love. That's why they're evil. That's why they've hit this space, or maybe they never felt love. But right, we have that dualistic aspect of us, but love will conquer. And so you start beaming that to them. And I'm going to say, I'm kind of giving you the frame of something's bothering you and you'd like it to leave. There's a lot more you can do if you want to communicate it with it. That's a whole nother thing. If you want to help send it to the light, that's a whole nother thing. It's very simple, but I don't want to harp on this too long. You have a lot of options, and I'd say it depends what you're facing of what route you want to go. But pull some guides forward, pull a God forward, pull whomever you believe in forward to help you, to stand there with you, and then ask it to leave. You say you can go to the light and you can show light. Like, literally just imagine, like, there's a light of love off in the distance. There's a guide or someone who will take you there. Would you like to go there? I can help you there. Half the time they'll go and then they're gone, and you've connected them to that piece, to that next step, and you're fine. If they don't, then you say, okay, you're not welcome in this space anymore. You must leave now. And I always imagine a big flood of pink light. Usually it's pink because I think of like heart and love, just flies out of me and washes my whole house. And it pushes that entity out of my sphere. And I'll even see it like go out of my neighborhood, go out of my city, go out of this earth, push it out as far as you can, as far as you like to. And 9 out of 10 times it's going to work. It's if they're really connected to an item, like a physical item that you've brought into your house, that you're going to have to do a little bit more work. But what I want you to leave with is you have the power. You are embodied. You are safe. Nothing can mess with you. I mean, it will mess with you, but nothing can continue to mess with you if you don't want it to. Okay? So you set your space, set your intention, blast it away with love, and continue on. So if you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for honoring my space, my stories, my experiences, and just, yeah, I appreciate it. Again, take what you want, leave the rest, but there's so much more than you can imagine out there. And I hope you have a wonderful Halloween, a wonderful Samhain. I hope all the loving ancestors or beings or things that you would like, if you would like them around, can come forward, maybe light a candle, say a prayer, and just enjoy this special liminal time, this portal, and let me know what you think, because I am here for it. If you guys are interested and want to go even deeper, reach out, let me know what you feel. I will totally pull more episodes together if you're interested. But other than that, I just want to say thank you for listening, and go live your most wild life, whatever that looks like, whatever those experiences are, and just be your unique self. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Live Wildly podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It goes a long way to helping gain new listeners and fills my heart to see your reviews every time it comes through. It just keeps me inspired and going on this journey. And if you'd like to learn more or follow Olivia further, you can check me out at www.olivia-ashley.com. And just there's a lot there that you can check out, and you can learn more about the podcast episodes. You can also follow along on Instagram at Wildly Olivia or at Live Wildly Podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you listeners, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again.